Hello, my fellow broke aristocrats, and a happy Wednesday to you. I'm glad everybody decided to join me today for our tea time. As you can see, I remembered the clip, so hopefully everyone can hear me just fine. Today's tea is a really great tea. It is not loose leaf. It's the inexpensive. Let me see if I can grab it. It's my go-to tea, PG Tips. And today I decided not to use any coconut sugar, so I'm just putting a little bit of 2% milk in it. This is like my favorite time of the day when I get to have a cup of tea. I really can see why the British just love that. It's almost like a meditation. You know, different cultures have different ways that they de-stress, they decompress, and they just take a moment. And I think that's really the symbolism of tea time. It's kind of like telling our brain, okay, we're going to just have some downtime here. We're going to take a break. We're going to give ourselves a little bit of something to make us smile. And that's tea time. It's break time. All right, my fellow broke aristocrats. I've had a lot of interesting questions directed my way about Broke Aristocrats becoming a nonprofit and how will I get paid, and a lot of confusion. Broke Aristocrats is being turned into a nonprofit where a certain percentage of the patients I see in my office will be on discount rates. So I'll be able to see patients that normally would not be able to see a naturopathic doctor. Those folks will be able to come in. And then all donations to Broke Aristocrats goes to Broke Aristocrats, and then an independent board sets up the conditions of my income. So 30 hours a week will be dedicated to seeing patients, writing articles, etc., and then I am paid by the charity. So some of the things I'm going to be doing for the charity are raising money for the charity, bringing on other nutritionists and other people in the healthcare industry to serve underprivileged communities. Also, I'm going to be writing vitamin companies to see if they can't donate vitamins to the underserved, since I have some very strong relationships that I've developed over the years with some of the vitamin companies. I'm also going to be creating educational modules so we can go into areas like women's shelters, etc., and teach people how to feed themselves nutritionally on an income. In addition to all that, we'll be producing videos here on YouTube that you can watch from the comfort of your own home or even in a public library. We try to keep them under 15 minutes, and the purpose of the videos are to empower and to enrich people's lives based on the values of Broke Aristocrats. And the values of Broke Aristocrats have been spoken about in other videos. We live by the golden rule. We treat everyone with the utmost respect. We believe everyone is entitled to be treated like an aristocrat because they are a human being, and we do not discriminate against anyone based on religion or faith or gender or economic status. We treat people the way they would want to be treated, and we judge a human being by their character and their actions, which brings me to our topic today. Look how I did that. Did you see how I did that? Okay, so the topic today, I'm just going to adjust myself a little bit there, is polishing our names. Polishing our names. And this is a tradition I found out about when I was at the University of Washington. And as many of you know, I went to the University of Washington and I studied anthropology, and particularly of interest to me was North American anthropology, or first persons of the New World. And we were looking a lot at Pacific Northwest communities. And we used to go to various different events that were hosted by Pacific Northwest Coast persons. What you would call powwows or potishes. I think I might not be pronouncing that right. But potlatches, excuse me, I apologize. It's been a bizarre morning. But anyway, so we would go to potlatches, or I would go to these events, And I was able to see dancing and singing and cultural exchange and try fry bread. But one of the most interesting things that I saw was hosted by the Pacific Northwest Communities, was at the University of Washington. They had a powwow. We called it a powwow. And we got together and we got to see the singing and the dancing and the cultural exchange. But there was a young man. He was about 18, 19 years old, and he was one of the dancers. And during the performances, his parents came out and they did a special ceremony to wish their son well on his journey, because he had joined the army. And they wanted to give him a special Clinkat blessing. And it was based on this principle of polishing your name. We are sending you forth out into the world. We have given you a name. Please polish your name. So all of us, regardless of whether we are rich or poor, we all share equally something that nobody can take from us. Our parents usually are the ones that give it to us, but no one can really take it from us. And that is a name. When you are born, you are given a name. I'm given a name. My name is Whimsy. Your name might be Dawn over at Sensible Money Mom, or Lydia, or we all have a name. And it was thought in Clinkat culture that it was our responsibility to polish the name. So I want to talk a little bit now about who the Clinkat were and where they lived. The Clinkat are a community, a Native American tribe that live in mostly southeast Alaska, but they also lived in territories beyond southeast Alaska, all the way into Washington state. They traded with the Russians, but also with the Americans. They made contact with the Spaniards in 1791. It was an interesting culture in the sense that they did make totem poles, so they were artists. They were a frugal community, the Clinkat, in the sense that everything was repurposed. We don't see a lot of waste when we go to these traditional cultures, because people are constantly reusing things. An example would be a bone. You hunt an animal, because they did hunt. They hunted fish, seal meat. But you would hunt an animal and you would get a bone, and then that bone might be transformed into a piece of art. You either turned it into a piece of art, or you might turn it into a comb to brush your hair, or a toy for the child. It was this constant repurposing of things, just like the Victorians. In that sense, the Clinkat were truly frugal people. Everything that they had in their world, they found a purpose for. And if they didn't find a purpose for it, they would look to find, if it didn't have a purpose, they would find a purpose for it. One of the things I loved about the Clinkat was just the artwork, which is stunningly beautiful. And I've seen quite a bit of it, both at the Burke Museum at the University of Washington. We have our own First Persons Museum. And but also I've gone to events, blankets, as I said, totem poles, jewelry, just stunningly beautiful artwork. And what I also love is the fact that you had multiple cultures speaking multiple languages in Native American tradition, and so they found ways to communicate with universal symbols. And this is what I love about the blankets and the totem poles, is that there's so much symbolism that regardless of what your language was, people were able to communicate through these pictures and through these symbols. And the culture was divided into clans. You might be Raven Clan or Bear Clan, rather than necessarily a centralized government. I thought that was pretty cool. So in the ceremony I saw, which was quite emotional, the mother was, she had the microphone and she was blessing her son, and I think he had joined either the Marines or the Army. It was a very beautiful moment that I was able to witness how she had gone onto the dance floor and blessed him. She talked about this idea in traditional Clinkat culture that parents give their children a name, but it is the responsibility of the child what he or she will do with that name. And it was called polishing the name. that we go forth into the world, how do people, when people think of us, when they think of our name, what do they think? Is it a polished name? That through our actions and through our deeds, we either taint our name, we put a little dirt on it, or we polish the name. And this is something that I think about a lot as a broke aristocrat, because even though a broke aristocrat might not be the wealthiest person in the world, we strive to be, you know, diamonds in terms of our personal behavior. We may come from different religions, different cultures, different races, different genders. But one thing that broke aristocrats all have in common is we are driven by a desire to do the right thing and to be good people and to polish our name. And I think that the truly polished name, the person who lives the good life, not wealth, not fame, that isn't the most important thing in life if you're a broke aristocrat. The most important thing in life to a broke aristocrat is to be a good person and to use the powers that we have to polish our name and to leave good things in the world. That when we go into a place, it is better off because we were there. All right, so that is the Clinkat people, and I hope you enjoyed the pictures of traditional Clinkat life. It's an interesting culture and a beautiful culture, and the language is amazing. I love the language of the Clinkat because they use the click, and there are something like 5 clicks that have been recorded, so I'll show you a little bit about what I learned before we close here. They had a frontal click, which was, if y'all can do that with me. Can you do that? Then they had a middle click, middle of the tongue. Can you do that? And then the back of the throat. And we also see that in the kung of Africa, of South Africa, I believe it is, or Kalahari, excuse me, the Kalahari Desert. They also have the click. So it's a language where there's a lot of clicking, and when the child is born in a Clinkat culture, he or she hears that click, that clicking sound, and can very organically and very naturally begin to do the clicking sound. But those of us that are introduced to the click later in life, we struggle a little bit, but I think I did pretty good. All right, my fellow broke aristocrats, thank you for watching this tea time and this day of learning about the wonderful and beautiful Clinkat people of the Pacific Northwest. I hope you enjoyed this video of broke aristocrats, and be sure and share, like, subscribe, and tell me what you're doing to take care of yourself on a budget. You know, I always like to hear. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.